Right. Hello and welcome, everyone. I am so honored that you are taking the time to be here for this global confluence, trailblazing back to our roots, liberating from the spell, and awakening our divine nature. We are gathering around this virtual fire with leaders, visionaries, wisdom keepers, and truth seekers to weave conversations of the mind back into the heart, breaking up the concrete that keeps us away from the sacred connection with the land. In this fire circle, we will be exploring how others have trailblazed back to their roots, unraveled from the spell that we are under, and listened to the sovereignty of their divine selves stir. It is time to awaken from the amnesia and remember. As the acorn knows its destiny, it is time now that we as a human family awaken to the encoding written in our DNA to become the oak tree. Let us be guided by those who have come before us and by these conversations at this virtual fire to step into our role as sacred stewards of our beloved Mother Earth. Let's trailblaze back to our roots, one rooted in nature. My name is Liisa Korpela, and I'm your host and fire tender for this event. And I am thrilled to be here today with Zahara Indigo. Welcome, Zahara Indigo.
Hi there. It's so wonderful to be here with you, Lisa.
It's so wonderful to have you. And before we dive into this great conversation about the gifts of Ma'at, I'd love to share a little bit with the audience about you. Zahara Indigo Rønlov, MA, is a wisdom teacher, a spiritual guide, author, artist, and mom. Her education includes a master's degree of eco-psychology from Naropa University and ordination as a minister of walking prayer with the Center of Sacred Studies. She is currently a PhD student at Southwestern College and a Sufi student with the Sufi order in Nayatia. Since 2007, she has operated Sacred Witness, offering LLC, offering one-on-one guidance, self-development classes, and spiritual pilgrimages to Egypt. She is grateful to guide transformation and healing by creating a safe space for physical, spiritual, and emotional wellness to root and blossom. Her first published book, The Gift of Ma'at, follows the same intention. In addition to her own business, she is the executive director for the Fountain of the Natural Order of Our Existence, a 501c3. The fountain's mission is to restore global reciprocity inspired by nature and the principles of original cultures in service to all life, and a focus on sacred economics, sacred territories, and sacred cultures. She is grateful to be in service to the deep wisdom of the original nations of the people of this planet. As a sacred witness to the unfolding complexity, beauty, and mysteries of this existence, it is Zahara Indigo's intention to live life in service to the health of our planet and all who reside here. In this, she has found something quite profound and beautiful through the spectrum of experiences life has offered. She has discovered something quite profound and most rewarding. Wonderful. I am so thrilled to be here and have this opportunity to be in conversation with you today. So excited to dive into the gifts of Ma'at. So tell us, who is Ma'at and what does she represent?
Well, Ma'at is a goddess of ancient Egypt, and she is, well, she's both a goddess and a concept, right? Pure concept. I'll show you an image of her as goddess because I have a statue of her right here. Um, she's not always black in color. She comes in different colors. This particular maker made her this way. But she always has the feather on her head. This is an ostrich feather that you see here. And sometimes she's seated, kneeling like this, and sometimes she's standing. She has these wings, right? And what she represents, the concept of her represents truth, not little t truth, but like the truth, the sum total of truth. And that also means that she represents cosmic order, natural law, justice, harmony, reciprocity, right? All of these kind of qualities, these are divine qualities of Ma'at. And in the ancient days, everyone came into the world believing that they were servants of Ma'at. They were here to serve Ma'at. The pharaoh himself or herself would receive Ma'at, care for Ma'at, and then return Ma'at at the end of their reign. That was their entire purpose, to make sure that the natural order of the land and of the people and of the cosmos stayed in alignment. Now, the counterpart to Ma'at is Isef. Isef is chaos. And chaos isn't bad. It's just they need each other, right? Out of chaos comes order, and from order goes chaos. In order for the planets to move around the sun, in order for the galaxy to hold its rotation, in order for the cosmos to hold its becoming, in order for the nucleus and protons and electrons and all that little micro stuff to be able to hold itself together and not go into chaos, we need Ma'at. Without Ma'at, it all falls apart. We don't have a living universe that we have now. So I wrote a book, as you mentioned, about Ma'at. It's called The Gifts of Ma'at. And if it's okay, can I read just one little, just a beginning? This isn't so much about Ma'at, but I call it the honoring. And I really like to start here because in some ways this is a foundation for all of us, for where we are, where we've been, where we're going. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. So this is called honoring. In gratitude of the directions, east, south, west, north, above, below, center. We are honored to have this space to co-create in this place. In gratitude of the elements, air, fire, water, earth, akasha. We are honored to have the building blocks that provide foundation. In gratitude of time, past, present, future, we are honored by what was, what is, and what will be. In gratitude of the makers, mother, father, divinity by all your names and ways. I am honored, we are honored by the opportunity to experience the gift of life. In gratitude of the guides, ancestors, nature, teachers, family, friends. We are honored by your wisdom, understanding, and patience. In gratitude of ourselves, heart, mind, body, soul. We are honored to have this chance to serve the highest good of all. And so I'm really honored to be here with you, Liisa, and with all of you who are participating in this with us. So thank you for that.
Oh, I love that. It just really brings this sense of place, right? That we can find that sense of home and that point of order through the directions, through the time, through the elements, that through this chaos, this coalesces this point of Ma'at, which is this great truth. I love that. It's so the beacon point to
Right.
hold to.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so let me say a little more about Ma'at because there's a lot to her, right? And I mean, if you are the truth, that's a lot. It's not just a little thing. We are all a truth within her truth. That's one way to think of it. She's like the diamond, and we all are a facet of that diamond. And not just us humans, but every tree, every insect, every animal, right? Every mushroom, every living being, every element, every impulse of nature is a truth on that diamond of Ma'at. So in the old days, way back when, in the ancient old days, I already shared that the people would come into the world believing that their role was to care for Ma'at, right? And there were many deities in the ancient world of Egypt. Many, I mean, as many as 2,000. Not all of them are known. Some of the more famous ones are quite well known, right? Like Isis and Osiris, most people know who they are. But Ma'at was the foundation for all of that, because even the gods, they can't exist without truth. Without truth, there are no gods, right? And so she was the foundation of it all. And one of the things that's really important about her is that one of her roles was to help people lead an ethical and moral life, so that when they died and they passed through the veils, right? And in that world, in that time, there was a process they would move through to go from the living into what they called the field of reeds, which was heaven or paradise, however you want to call that. They called it the field of reeds. And to be able to get there, you had to be a good person, right? You had to lead a life where your heart was lighter than the feather of Ma'at. So the heart, here, I can show you in this image. So the heart is represented, if you can see it, it's like this little vase. If you can imagine a little ceramic vase, right? That your heart is this vessel, right? And it's weighed against the feather of Ma'at. And the goal is that you live a life so that your heart is lighter than the feather, right? And then you can move through. And along those lines, all the tombs and on the sarcophaguses and various on papyri, there are different people's 42 negative confessions, they called it. And what would happen is that they would pass from their bodies, and their bodies would be prepared in the way the ancient Egyptians prepared, with all the mummification rites and all of that, right? All the fancy preparations they did. And then the soul of the being would be taken to the halls of two truths. And in these halls of two truths, they would meet 42 assessors. And these 42 assessors were there to hear their confessions of what they didn't do in their life. I didn't steal. I didn't cheat on my husband. I didn't kill somebody, right? I spoke truth, right? 42 of these confessions. And at the end of that, then with some other kind of trials and tribulations, you would end up at the scales. And at the scales, that's where Anubis, the god of not the afterlife, but the god of mummification, he would take the heart, the vessel, the spiritual heart, not your physical heart, but the ob, that vase. He would take it and he would put it on the scale and weigh it. So you've just confessed, I didn't do all these things. I was a good person, and the heart is light. And then you would move forward into the field of reeds. So with all of that, I'm thinking, well, it's all well and good to say what you didn't do at the end of a lifetime, but what if I were to declare what I will do? What are 42 ways of being that's important to me as a human? What are 42 moral and or ethical parameters with which I want to set my life? And that's what the gifts of Ma'at became. It became this opportunity to learn about Ma'at, and also to then consider what 42 aspects, positive declarations, rather than saying, I didn't do it after you're dead. Instead, you're saying, I am going to live this way moving forward. And I always encourage people to write them in pencil, because, you never know. Like, you may learn something that shifts your world or cosmic view, and suddenly that particular declaration is not quite in alignment in the same way. So you can change it, right? Like, it's not about right or wrong, good or bad, evil or sinful, or it's about what 42 aspects are important for me to live my life in accordance with Ma'at, in accordance with truth, accordance to justice and natural law and harmony and reciprocity and all of these aspects that are Ma'at. And so that's what the book became, and a exploration of of what it is to have a heart as light as a feather through a deep guided journey. Um, so I think
I love
Ma'at
what
is
you're saying, that
essential.
how this like, because what you're doing, instead of being this like victim, right? That you're at your death's door and now you did all these things and there's no going back. You just have to face and reckon with your actions. And I love how you have reverse engineered this to actually be actions in your life,
Right, right.
right? How, what a powerful reclaiming of those gifts in that journey. So pardon me, I interrupted you, but I
That's
just
okay.
really love that that vision of that book has brought forth for you.
Well, and it makes it an active co-creative process that's not about what faith you live with, right? Because the world has so many faiths. And I personally believe that all the faiths have one root, right? That there is one ultimate source, and that it branches into all the ways that each of us humans can understand and relate to that significance in our own lives. So it doesn't matter what you call the divine, right? It matters that we connect to something greater than ourselves. And with Ma'at, it's not a matter of what you call the divine. It's a matter of coming into alignment with those parameters that make us good humans, that make us the guardians of this planet, the caretakers of this planet that we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to be bombing each other. We're not supposed to be bioengineering and biohacking and destroying the planet, you know, and monocropping to such a degree that the earth has no more vitality. We're not supposed to be doing that. That is not Ma'at. You know, Ma'at is caring for the fabric of life so that the fabric of life can exist far into the future. And the fabric of life has existed for, I don't have the number. I'm going to just say zillions of years because that's a not real number, but for a very long time, right? Life has existed on this planet in one form or another for a very, very long time and has withstood many trials and tribulations. And it's resilient because life is resilient. However, in the very short period of time, humanity has altered the literally altered the landscape, the ecology, the geology of the planet to such a degree that there are many who are now saying that this new age that we're in is an age where it's no longer the geological forces that are shaping things, it's humans that are shaping the geological forces, that where humans are shaping the weather patterns, humans are shaping all of this part of the fabric of life that we actually don't have the ultimate skill to be able to manipulate and take care of that because we've lost sight of Ma'at. Okay, one little story and then we can go wherever you want to go next with this. But another goddess who's super important in the pantheon, her name is Sekhmet. And I bring her in because she is considered the guardian of Ma'at. Her ultimate role is to guard truth, right? And long ago, once upon a time, the people had forgotten Ma'at. And Ray, the son, is looking down upon his children, and his heart is hurting because they've forgotten truth, and truth is what holds it all together. And if we don't remember truth, what are we going to do when when the leaders of governments can't speak truth, right? What are we going to do? The fabric of things begins to unravel. And we're seeing that in our country today. Anyway, um, so he's like, oh my God, they've forgotten truth. What do I do? And so he calls his daughter Sekhmet, who is portrayed as a lioness. And she's sometimes considered the feminine face of the sun. She's a goddess of war and plagues, but she's also a goddess of healing and deep, fierce healing, deep compassion, even in her healing. So she holds both ends of that spectrum. So he's like, please go help my children remember Ma'at, because she's there to guard Ma'at. And they've forgotten, so she has to go help them remember. She gets here and she looks around and she's so angry at the way that the people had forgotten Ma'at, that she forgot herself. and she went into a rage, and she began to slash and bloodlust, and it was, not a pretty sight, because she wasn't supposed to hurt them. She was supposed to help them remember and heal. Anyway, so Ray's up there going, oh no, what do I do? This isn't, she got a little unhinged. And so the god of wisdom, Thoth, or Jehute is his true name, he suggests that they make a brew of calming herbs and some pomegranate to make it red like blood, and to pour it out into the river. And so she would see it and lap it up. And in that, she would fall asleep, she would become calm, she would remember her heart, she would remember her purpose, and then she could move forward and help the people remember Ma'at. Fast forward thousands of years, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, here we are, planet Earth. The people have forgotten Ma'at, right? We're taking genes from one organism and putting them in another organism. And it says, Ma'at says, you get pigs from pigs and you get wheat from wheat, not the other way around, right? And today we have fish and tomatoes. Like, it's like that. We're pulling things apart. We've forgotten Ma'at. And we have a lot of wars. And we just had a plague, right? And we have a lot of people on the planet calling Sekhmet, praying to Sekhmet, finding Sekhmet. And the more we call her, if we don't call her from that place of compassion and healing, deep healing, she's going to come with her teeth bared and her claws out. And she's going to help the unraveling in order to help the healing. And that's a big question, right? What are us humans going to do in this next 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, right? How are we going to preserve the life for the children who are living 25 generations from now, right? 50 generations from now, 5,000 generations from now, because they're our family also. So Ma'at is all of those things, right? And we are Sekhmet. We are those of us who wake up and remember truth in the way that it calls us. We're really obligated to become guardians of Ma'at in ourselves, in our own words, in our own thoughts, in our own actions, and in the world around us, to stand for justice, to stand for harmony and reciprocity, not only between human beings, but between humans in the natural world. So anyway, blah, 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 blah. I could keep going and going and going, but
I
I don't.
could go bazillion directions with what you brought forth, but I just, that, really seeing how in this web of life has been torn apart, this fabric of life, right, has been torn apart because we, not just in reciprocation between us as humans, but in all life forms, right? A real humility into the animals and plants that nourish us, and then what we give to them to tend to them, and how completely out of balance, right? That we are messing with the gene code in such a way, a perverted way, for what means. What is the means? It's about power, greed, all these things that are so out of balance, and the money out of balance with Ma'at, what is truth. Like this, when we take care of this beautiful garden of this earth, she has so much bounty to share with us, right? And that reciprocity. And also just thinking about how we are all, Sekhmet, and how, like, do we need to move into such vengeance and violence and suffering for us to restore, right, that sovereignty in ourselves? And I also kind of see that mama lioness, who sees her little baby cub fall on the ground, and it's actually like serves the baby cub to get herself up, to find her own power, her own strength and sovereignty, to move through these hardships,
Yeah.
right? So just that, really, like, that discernment, because Sekhmet is discernment in love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Deep discernment, right?
Yeah.
This word discernment is so important. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, it's sort of discounted somehow, but um, to be able to discern in such a fine way, even your own thoughts, right? Because not everything we think is truth. Just because we think it doesn't mean it's real, right? This is real. And so, how do I discern even my own thinking? How do I discern my choices so that my choices can align with truth? Right? Because I don't ultimately know the outcome of my choice. My choice might seem like it's a really great idea in the moment and it feels right. It's checking off all the boxes, whatever those boxes are. And that's the choice. But the ripples of that choice end up being difficulty, right? Whereas some other choice may be really difficult and you don't want to make it and it's really hard and it sucks. But then the ripples of that choice bring prosperity. How do we align? How do we discern? Right? What choices to make, how to become present to such a degree that we can align with truth, that we can operate out of whatever 42 parameters we've set for ourselves, or even one parameter or 108 parameters. It doesn't matter how many, right? But that we've set some kind of compass that is important to us and that we follow that compass. So
I love
discernment is
that.
key.
It's almost like discernment is like what is the facets on the diamond, right?
Right,
But discernment is what works that diamond into that sense of truth. But
right,
it's a living experience. It's a living document, right?
right.
There is not the truth. There is only moving into truth, right? And
Well, I would say there is the truth, and the
okay,
truth is Ma'at, right?
okay,
And that the truth has that movement into it and movement out of it, and that it's an active becoming as existence is being woven in every moment, right? Because we're at the edge of existence right now and right now and right now and right now. And the truth is the sum total of everything. Everything. Like that's a lot. Like that's a lot. I mean, not just everything on this planet, but everything in this cosmos, everything beyond the cosmos, if there is a beyond the cosmos, right? Everything within, without, around, that's all part of what Ma'at is truth. And then the bazillion and facets of truth, right? In all the
right.
various ways.
So how do we discover that? How do we find that sense of truth? You know, like, and so there's, so you have 42 different ways without necessarily going through all the 42 ways. Maybe you could give like a handful of them, or like, how is that process kind of forged then?
Well, you know, I'm talking, so this positive 42 declarations is a current time interpretation or repenning maybe of what was in the ancient times. And ultimately, even what was in the ancient times requires deep discernment. Just because I wrote it in a book and said it to be true doesn't mean it's the truth, right? It's my experience of that truth and how it's moved through me, right? And anything you read about Egypt from any author throughout any period of time, you have to read it with discernment, knowing that that's their interpretation from that time when they interpreted it, moving through whatever, inner ecology they have. So that said, no book on Egyptology is the truth. It's all approximations, right? It's all estimations. So how to arrive into your relationship with Ma'at? Well, the first thing is to arrive into your relationship with Ma'at. A message I was given recently, not by Ma'at, but during an experience, was that it was time for me to stop seeking. I'm a seeker, right? So all my life, I want to learn, I want to explore, I want to discover, I want to become more than whatever it is that I perceive I am. And they're like, it's time to stop seeking. It's time to arrive. It's time to arrive. And it was that simple. And in the arriving, we're not seeking Ma'at, we're arriving into what is actually here. what is actually here. I'm on a computer Zoom call with Lisa. That's what is. I have a sleeping dog over there. That's what is. You have plants hanging in your room, growing in their pots. These other life forms, right, who share that space with you. That's what is. And in a little while, the Zoom will be done, and whatever is then will be then, right? But I don't have to seek that moment. I have to arrive into this one. And the truth of that is that the more we're able to arrive into the present tense, the more access we have to the spectrum of life, past, present, future, and the more we're able to discern what's actually happening inside of us and all around us to be able to make the choice that best align with whatever future we are hopefully heading into, right? Because ultimately the future doesn't exist. It's a figment of our mind to be able to track things, but when we get to the future, we're in the now. And so there is no future. There is only now. And the more we arrive into the now and operate here rather than seeking something else, the more we're weaving a world that is aligned with truth. And how do we do that? How do we arrive? Well, we take a breath. It really can be that simple, right? Like I'm in a moment and I've got some like memory of my past and it's making me feel dissociated because I'm triggered because that was trauma, and I'm not able to be present in this moment because I'm, somewhere else. And then I recognize it because I'm not here, and I can be like, and it doesn't make that go away, but it puts it in its place. Because it's the past, it's not actually happening. I don't have to have the trauma and the triggers, the physical body sensations of what that trauma did to me then happen to me now. I can honor what happened. I can honor everything that it was, good or bad, right or wrong, right? But I don't have to bring it into my moment. And I can arrive by breath. It's the most powerful tool. And, teachers throughout the ages have been teaching us to bring mindfulness to our breath, right? Like almost every spiritual teacher out there is going to have some kind of practice that connects us into our breath. And they're all powerful and they're all beautiful. But simply just like, oh yeah, I'm breathing. It can just start with that. It doesn't have to be more elaborate. So that's how.
I love that. And, as you're talking it and kind of hearing the story of Mott too, how, this in the womb, like we are in this wet, watery environment, kind of this chaos in this chaotic environment, and coalescing into this order of this body and this amazing being. And then from that chaotic state through the birth, the first breath, that is how we now have arrived into this life, into truth, into Ma'at,
Yeah.
and carry that forward. And I also hear, I'm curious about judgment,
Mm.
because she is, this goddess of judgment. And do you have anything kind of to say around that, and how those scales and that liberation happens through that?
Well, in the story, in the mythos, um, I talked about what happens if your heart is lighter than the feather and you get to move on. You meet Osiris. Hey man, how's it going? Thanks for all the growy things, because he helps all the, through death comes life, right? Through the composting decay, the seed is able to have its nutrients and grow. And so through Osiris's journey becoming dead, he made it possible for the life, right? So there's this, again, that reciprocity. There's Mott. With death comes life, right? We all eat death. Like this was a big moment. Even all you vegans out there, you eat death, because as soon as we pick that plant and consume it, its life force ends and it becomes us. We need death to live, and death needs life to live. if death lives, if you know what I mean, right? Like death can't be without life and life can't be without death. Anyway, I was a little aside. So you get to meet Osiris. Hey man, thanks for all the glory things, right? And onwards you go. But maybe you get to that scale and your heart is a little heavier, right? Well, they had a goddess who helped out with that. Her name was Amet, and she was a composite goddess of the three fiercest beasties of the ancient world, which were a lioness and a crocodile and a hippopotamus. Like each one of them alone, you wouldn't want to mess with. But then when you mush them all together into this beast, this goddess, they called her a demon. I think she was just misunderstood. When you're, when you're a hippo croc lioness, you're hungry. I mean, it's just rough. It's rough being all three of those in one body. Anyway, so she was standing by in case the heart was heavier. And if the heart was heavier, she would consume the soul, because the heart was considered one of the soul bodies of the being. And when she consumed your soul, though it nourished her, it prevented the supplicant from moving on to the field of reeds. So I've been thinking about this, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I get that to some degree, but this whole idea of being a bad person and sinning and all of that, I'm like, okay, what if we can address that just like we can create 42 positive declarations? What if we can recognize when our heart is feeling heavy, when we have guilt or shame or any of the things that weigh us down, that instead of waiting till that moment when our heart is on the scale and it gobbles us up because we didn't deal with those things, how about we deal with them as we go? And instead we like create a little, inner imaginary bowl, maybe a beautiful crystal bowl or a ceramic bowl, handmade, I don't care what your bowl is, but that it's there for Amet. And whenever your heart is feeling heavy, that you can pour it out and offer it to her, right? So that you then can lighten yourself as you move along, rather than waiting till the end and carrying whatever things are weighing you down. And then the other piece of it is that idea of writing it in pencil, right? Like those things, whether it's 42 or not 42. The reason it's 42 is because in ancient Egypt, there were 42 counties or nomes of the ancient world. And so the 42 assessors who you would go and give your declaration to, your negative confession, were the 42 deities of each of those gnomes, because each gnome had like a mascot, right? And so that's why the number 42. And then, in the Hitchhiker's Guide, the answer is 42. So there's something about that too. I don't know. But in terms of your own personal dedications, again, whether it's 1 or 42 or 108 or 5,264, when they're in pencil, it allows you to assess, it allows you to make mistakes, because mistakes are essential. Now, a mistake that you do again is, I'm still learning. If you make that mistake a third or fourth time, then either you need to reassess that particular declaration, because obviously you're not sticking to it. Why aren't you sticking to it? And what can you do to either get back in alignment with it, or to reassess that declaration altogether, because you recognize you've changed and shifted and something else is true. So you can erase it, right? So it's not about sinning. There is this commandment, my 33rd commandment is whatever it is. I could look, but and if I don't live by that commandment, I am sinning and I'm going to hell. And that's that. Amet's going to gobble me up and I'm just done. Well, no. How about, why aren't I living up to that expectation in myself? Well, how about I have a conversation with myself, right? That part of me that's not living up to that, and look at why I'm not living up to it. Is it something I need to live up to? And if not, erase it and write something else that is true in that moment. allow yourself to evolve, allow yourself to grow. So that's my answer to like sin and bad and what happens if you don't. And,
I
you
think
know,
that's so brilliant because, so often we are carrying other people's thoughts, expectations, beliefs,
right.
and we're acting out of these impulses. And so that we carry these sins with us, like, of course our heart is going to become very heavy, right? Like the backpack is thick and weighing us down. And so how can we practice in our daily life being arriving into ma'at, arriving into the truth, so we can liberate our heart as a daily practice, as a daily inquiry into um yeah, I messed up, and let give myself compassion and empathy, that I made a mistake and that I will try to do better. Or those I messed up and I was acting out of impulses that were really ignorant to me or blind to me. And so um really then having that discernment, what is our stuff that needs to be transformed, and maybe what we are carrying that are other people's stuff, right? So we often can't really digest other people's shit, is what I always say.
Yeah,
So
no.
how can we really, and that every moment then becomes that dance with ma'at to finding what is truth that keeps our heart light, right?
That's it.
And so
Okay,
with
so
go
let's just do something really quick. So let's everybody just close our eyes for a minute. And I was just talking about this bowl. I have this image of like a giant dog bowl, but you imagine whatever your bowl is, right? Again, maybe it's a crystal bowl, maybe it's a plastic bowl, maybe it's a metal bowl, maybe it's pure gold, maybe it's clay, maybe you got it at the dollar store. I don't how whatever your bowl is, just see it. See its color, see its texture, see its size. Has to be big enough for a lioness snout to get into it. Right? All right. So now that you have your bowl, now just take a moment and connect in with your heart. Take a deep breath into your heart center. And inevitably, there is something that is weighing you down. Now, this isn't about going into the story of the something. You don't even have to like unpack really what the something is. Just recognize the heaviness that's there. And now envision that you can take your heart like that vase, that ob, the spiritual heart, and that you can pour whatever heavy contents that are in it into the bowl for Amit. And maybe there's just one thing that pours out. Maybe there's a lot that pours out. But it's only that which no longer serves you that is emptying from your spiritual heart. Then when it's done emptying, just put it back. Take another deep breath into your heart center. And know that when Amit is ready, she will come and gobble all that up. Maybe she's even here now. So that you don't have to carry it anymore. She can digest it for you. And just take a moment to notice how you feel. Maybe you feel the same. Maybe you feel a little lighter. Maybe you have a curiosity suddenly bubbling in your heart that you didn't have before. No matter what you're feeling, what is true is that you have more space now. What is also true is that when you have space in your heart, it can fill with light. And what is true about light is light has no weight, it is light. So when your heart is filled with light, it is lighter than the feather moth. Yeah. So this little exercise is something that you can do once in a while, every day, whenever you're feeling a little heavy, for whatever that's worth.
I love it. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
As I was kind of, burrowing into that and thinking of the things to release, feels like really one of the last pieces is the judgment of
Mm.
self, right? And once we can liberate from the judgment of self, we can actually really let that light in and really step into our brilliance. Last piece. I love it. So, thinking about our times now and like this, what we really need to be, we are in such polarizing, broken down, fabric ripping apart place of this humanity in this world, these time, these ages. So, what is it that we can, what can we unveil in this spell that needs to be recognized and then transmuted to be in alignment to Ma'at? I mean, there's probably a lot to that,
Yeah.
but what
Well,
so bring forth what comes, first for you.
okay, the first thing that's coming through, just bear with me on this because I don't totally know what this is. So, um, we all have to realize that we're all the chosen ones, that there isn't one chosen people. If we're breathing our breath on this planet Earth right now, we're the chosen ones. And that's not just the humankind, because this breath that we're breathing right now on planet Earth, we wouldn't breathe this breath if it weren't for all the treed ones and the leaved ones and the rooted ones who make our breath possible. Nor would they be able to breathe their breath if it weren't for all of, the walking ones who breathe. And so we're all the chosen ones by the fact that we've been given life. Period, the end. And fighting over who's the chosen one and whose land belongs to who. And I know that when I'm saying this, as I'm saying this again, remember, I'm not even sure where this is coming from. There is deep ties and roots to lands for people, deep ancestral heritage, which is truth for these people, right? Where when their family has lived there for ever, right? Forever, there's something real about that. But no one is more chosen than another. I guess that's what I keep coming to, is we've got to come to this place where we recognize that we have life. We are chosen to live life. So how are we going to live it? Are we going to fight each other because your way of seeing God is different than my way? Are we going to fight each other because your color of politics is different than my color of politics? And I don't want either of those colors, right? I want the in between. I want to believe that we're all chosen to breathe this breath together. How are we going to do it together? How are we going to find solutions together? Not keep looking for the problems, but how are we going to develop the solutions that are life affirming solutions, that are life generating solutions, that are life perpetuating solutions? How are we going to do that together? Because the current mode is divide, right? The rhetoric in most countries, right? I won't just speak for my own, but I'm going to cast around the globe, is to divide us and them, my beliefs, your beliefs, right? My policy, your policy, my party, your party. I'm just going to say, fuck all that. Sorry, but fuck all that. Like, come on, humans. Like, we have one planet and we get anywhere from 1 to 105 years of life on this planet, right? What are we going to do with it? Why don't we make it the Eden that it is rather than fight over, you know, if it even was an Eden once upon a time, back in some age written in a book? And holy books are beautiful. They contain so much wisdom and so much knowledge. And we're ripping apart the most important book, which is the book of nature. right? So we're all chosen. I keep coming back to that. That seems so important right now somehow, right? Regardless of who you voted for at this last presidential election in the United States, regardless of what country you live in and what you believe in, you were chosen to be here. And at the core, your soul is connected to all of us. I'm connected to all of you. We're all connected together, right, in this vast web of life. So,
I love
yeah,
that in that, like that, because we are taught to outsource. We are taught to find authority outside of ourselves. We're taught to find solutions outside of ourselves. That over there, the grass is greener, and that's what I really need. And so all of this is outsourcing,
yeah,
really, our sovereignty,
right,
which is we find within us,
right,
right? So
right.
we are the ones we've been waiting for. We
Yeah,
are the chosen ones because we have chosen to be here
that's
in
it.
this dance of life right here, right
Right
now,
now.
to make the magic happen,
Yeah,
to witness the transformation that is occurring. And so yeah, that's the possibility, right? As we walk forth to reconcile this chaos into order and this life and dance, a death dance, right? Because we have even outsourced death. Like death isn't part of the story of life, but actually it's the other half of it.
it's the other half of it.
Of this web of creation, right? And so I love that, bringing back um our sense of self, right? And coming into sense of self to understand we all are breathing. We all have our feet on the ground. We all are living this life that is part of this beautiful connection. And that all these the animals and plants have chosen to be here as well. That I love so dearly, because what great teachers and elders those plants are for us.
Right?
Yeah.
So much.
So any other things that you would love to share about Ma'at and you want to bring forth at this time, just to really bring into this message of trailblazing back to our roots? And I loved that, like, the book of nature.
Mhm.
It's not actually doesn't come in paper. but
No.
that conversation is so dear to my heart. Um, so yeah, any other pieces you want to bring forth?
Well, so the Book of Nature, the piece that's kind of tickling right now is to just share. Sorry, I'm looking for the words. Um, so in the ancient days, the gods and goddesses of Egypt were called the Neteru, and one was a netter, and many were Neteru. And this word Neteru moved into the Coptic Christian, which is the Egyptian Christian sect, right? Which is a very old Christian sect, has been there as long as forever. And they have their own language. And in their language, they have some of the ancient words. And their word for God is Netcher, Neteru, Netcher. And if you hear the word Netcher, you kind of can begin to hear the word nature there, which brings it right back to the Neteru. Because the Neteru, I mean, some people think that the ancients were polytheistic, right? That they believed in lots of gods. And that seems evident because we have all these gods and goddesses. There's a whole pantheon, 2000, I said, right? Give or take. And however, what I'm beginning to wonder, maybe believe, is that it wasn't so much that they were had a pantheon of deities, but that this was the natural world, that they were recognizing that they were intimately and intricately connected into the web of life, right? And so by showing a human form with an animal head is showing that they have that nature within them, right? So maybe it's a jackal head on a man's body. It shows that within the man, there is that aspect of the jackal, right? Jehute, the ibis, right? In the in the papyrus reeds along the bank of the river. They recognize the patience and the stillness, right, of this bird who is fishing amongst the reeds that make the paper that they write upon, right? So there's this intimate connection between the archetypal significance of what each of these deities represents and our own human nature, right? And so it's not even so much that there was the god Jehute walking around with the ibis head on a man's body. No, no. It was that nature and human wasn't something separate. It was the same thing. It was the same thing. And it still is, but we've forgotten that. We seem to think that we've risen above even God on the scale of of things, right? But we're not any higher or lower than any other life form on this planet. We are just as important, and they are all just as important as us too. So yeah, that's what's coming through.
I love that. And um, because even when we start to create the pantheon and that these are gods, we're putting something outside of ourselves again, right? Do we idolize this thing and this idol, right? And it's outside, where actually what you're sharing is like, this is the frequency of this animal energy and this part of nature that we are all part of. And we all have these elemental frequencies
Right,
of these different energies, and how fine tuned to
right,
get this frequency of patience with the ibis, and the nuances that they actually created in the story. I mean, we have
right.
very easy ones that we can see, but there's so much more intelligence that they've created in that story of what is that frequency of that lioness.
And I think that's what they were doing, is that they were leaving a system behind to help us understand those frequencies within ourselves, right? Because the more we understand those frequencies within ourselves, the more we stand on the foundation of Ma'at, right? And standing on that foundation of Ma'at, then we arrive, right? Rather than continually trying to get somewhere else, we arrive. And when we arrive, we can we have access to everything that's here for us right now. We may not like where we arrive, right? There's plenty of shitty moments, but that's okay. Arrive into the moment. It really hurts. It's really painful. Someone just died. I'm in deep grief. Arrive into it. Feel it. Like, what a gift to feel the grief of the passing of someone you love so dear. A baby's being born, right? Arrive into the celebration of this new life who's just taken its first breath. Like, arrive into the celebration of whatever you're feeling, because feelings are transient. They come and they go. Moments are transient. They come and they go. And some of them are blissful and ecstatic, right? Some of them really just suck. But that's okay. No moment lasts forever. Be it, feel it. I think that I'm beginning to feel more and more that our soul, the light of our soul, is like a drip of the light of God. Again, fill in the blank. I'm going to say God, I'll say Allah, whatever, creator, great spirit, but that it's this drip of light, and that all life has a drip of life in it, and that our real purpose is to experience life. It's not about I'm going to become a thing, or I've got my degree, or whatever. That our real goal is to fully experience the spectrum that life has to offer us. And in that, it feeds that spark of light that's connected to the all, and then it gets put back in with that wholeness when we go back into it, that reciprocity. I don't know if that's truth or not, but it feels really good to me. So I'm gonna go with that for a bit and see what happens.
Well, many people, talk, it's the journey, right? It's the practice, it's the moving through this frequency of emotion, which, people also say that, Mother Earth, we're here to be the antenna for Mother Earth to feel, to go through these experiences. And then also how to use this intelligence of nature to have compassion with ourselves, like, oh, here's my jackal coming out right now, and I'm just like really feeling ferocious, or I'm feeling really vengeful, and this this anger and energy is manifesting in this way. And to have compassion, that we have these intense emotions that rise through us, and yet through witnessing, arriving, and feeling that emotion, we can then heal, transform, transmute, learn, understand from this human experience.
Right, we respond to the emotion rather than react out of it, right? When we can arrive into, I'm really angry right now. Like anger is totally valid, totally legit. What's not legit is if I take that anger and I spew it all over my son, for example, right? Or my neighbor, or you, or anyone, right? Or even myself, spewing my own anger back on myself instead of being like, I'm really angry. Why am I angry? Oh yeah, that's why I'm angry. Okay, that's legit. It's real. It's a real thing to be angry. Is there anything I need to do about that anger? No, I just need to recognize that I'm angry. Or yes, I need to do something about it. Okay, what do I need to do about it? I'm seeing one of those little diagrams where it's like if this arrow, and then if this. Anyway, um, right, because then again, it comes all down to choices. If
And
we're not
truth of
arriving,
Ma'at, like
right,
tempering us back into that sense of truth within our heart,
right,
which we find within our heart, within
exactly,
ourselves, through
exactly,
these deep conversations.
exactly.
So, yeah,
Arriving
beautiful.
again and again and again and again and
And we
again
have to
and
remember it
again.
again and again and again and again. And as soon as we get there, we're not anymore.
Exactly. Now
That
is a
moment of the
constant,
present. Yeah.
right? Now is a constant, and before and after is figments of our imagination to keep track of things. But it's all right now, really, ultimately.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So beautiful. I love that. It's so great. So, as we wrap up here, I'm just so thankful for this opportunity to connect with you and share. And how can people get a hold of you? And you have a beautiful meditation for as a free gift. You want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. So it's a 5 minute meditation you can watch. There's video component to it. But it's also you can close your eyes and just listen, and maybe I'd recommend that too. And it's just a way to synchronize your heart, right? To the planet, to the cosmos, to yourself, ultimately. So enjoy it, and feel welcome to share it if you feel like somebody could benefit from it. And and yeah, you could visit my website. I'd be grateful for that. You can see what I'm up to or a little more about me. It's sacredwitness.center is where you'll find my various activities. And I do one-on-one sessions with clients. I'm not doing any classes right now because I am in class. I made a decision to put a little pause on any of my circles and online teaching offerings while I am a PhD student, because it is a lot to be a PhD student, let me tell you. I didn't quite know until I was here, and now that I'm here, I'm like, okay, it's a lot. I can do it, but it's a lot. And then I also lead tours in Egypt, and my next tour to Egypt is in December of 2025. So basically a year from now, or I'm just getting going on the promotion of that one. And it is called The Scales of Ma'at. And so with that journey, I will be gifting everybody a audio version of my book. It is out in audiobook format now. You can just Google Gifts of Ma'at audiobook and it will show you all the places. It's not on Audibles yet, sorry. They want me to have an ebook, and I haven't done the ebook yet because there's like I have all these great pictures and I like the formatting in the ebook. Like, I don't know. I haven't figured out how to be happy with the ebook formatting. I'll get there. But when I do, then Audible will pick it up as one of their offerings. However, I will gift everybody that audio version of it, and then we'll go a little deeper during the trip into, the scales of Ma'at, because once we've gone through the book, the journey in the book, the process in the book, all that we've talked about today will be you'll have gone through a process of that, and then it will allow us to go into an even deeper understanding of truth within ourselves during this journey. And then I have another one on the books that is a few years out, but super exciting. In 2027, in August, I know Egypt, August, summertime is not what you'd normally think of in the time to go to Egypt. However, there is a solar eclipse that is happening in Egypt in August of 2027. And so I'll be leading a tour during that time. The transit of the eclipse, it begins kind of over by Spain, Morocco, and it arcs down and it ends kind of in the ocean down near by India, the tip of India. And the very center point of that transit is basically, for all practical purposes, over Luxor, the city of Luxor, a little north and a little south. But basically right there. So my goal for this journey, it's called the Amun-Ra journey, because we're dealing with the seen and the unseen sun, which is who Amun-Ra is. It's to be on our dahabeah, a little north of Luxor, when the eclipse happens, so that we're in the middle of the Nile, in the middle of the transit, in the middle of the summer. And so there's that one too is coming.
Wow.
Those are my
That
Egypt
sounds
trips. Yeah.
amazing. That sounds so amazing.
It's really wonderful. And I'm always happy to consult if people are traveling to Egypt and they want some advice. I can do consultation, and I can also plan trips for individuals, families, groups, from 1 to 100 or more people. So if you want to go to
In all your
Egypt,
spare time while you're
in all my
just working
spare
on your
time, I do that too.
PhD.
That too, right? It all works somehow or another.
That's so wonderful. That's so generous. I love what you're offering, and that just sounds like such an amazing both tours coming up, the scales of Ma'at and then the solar eclipse on the Nile. That sounds great. Congratulations on that, putting that together. Oh, thank you so much, Zahara Indigo. It's so lovely connecting with you. And as we close, I just want to take a moment to just give thanks to everybody who showed up to listen to this um, uh, for a cast today, this interview today. And I just want to just offer everybody the opportunity to really listen into these conversations and open your heart and your mind and find ways to support liberating yourselves out of this spell and just awaken to our divine nature rooted in nature. And so I really look forward to sharing the next interview with you. And if you found this to be beneficial, please pass this on to anybody who you think, and just sending so much love and blessings to you all. And bye for now. Thank you.